A magnitude 6.2 earthquake has collapsed buildings in central Italy with at least 6 people believed to have been killed. The mayor of the town of Amatrice says people are buried under the rubble and that the town isn't here anymore. Now, the epicenter of the quake was south of the city of Perugia. The quake hit in the early hours of Wednesday morning, and the mayor of another affected town, Abreu, said 4 people are buried under the rubble. Well, for the latest on this, let's speak to Laura Silvia Battaglia. She's joining us now from Milan. Laura, just to bring us up to date on the emergency response to this earthquake in central Italy.
Yes, good morning. Civil Protection Agency in Italy, after the earthquake, said that the damage is extended in all Marche region. And again, International Red Cross recommended all citizens to free landlines and mobile phones to be available for emergencies.
And just give us a sense, if you can, please, Laura Silvia, of these kind of towns. I imagine being in central Italy, these are medieval towns, the kind of picturesque places that people will know from television and films.
Yes, exactly. The towns are very old, and the buildings collapsed are very old. So basically, it's an area on hills and very damaged because it's old first.
Okay, and the difficulty, I imagine, Laura Silvia, is that emergency services are finding it hard to actually get into these towns to start the recovery process.
Yes, exactly. One of the problems is that some bridges that connect the areas are collapsed too. So it's very difficult to ask to rescuers to reach the places and to do their job very well. So.
And just finally then, Laura Silvia, of course, Italy is no stranger, sadly, to these kind of natural disasters. It's had a number in the past sort of 10, 15 years. How prepared are these towns? They're obviously ancient, hundreds of years old, but how prepared can they be for these kind of mass earthquakes?
Well, all this area of Italy, all towns, all buildings are not safe in terms of earthquake possible damages. Even though in this area, in L'Aquila, some years ago, Italy had a very bad earthquake. So basically, there are no, no chances in case like this one to try to find solutions before anything bad happens.
Absolutely. Well, Laura Silvia Battaglia from Milan, we thank you for joining us on TRT World. Well, for more on this, we can now speak to a geophysicist, Rafael Abreu. He's from the US Geological Survey. Rafael, thank you so much for joining us on TRT World. So from your assessment, just how damaging has this earthquake been? It was shallow, wasn't it?
Yes, it was definitely a very shallow quake. We're talking about pretty much 10 kilometers below the surface. So in terms of geology, that definitely is a very shallow quake. And at this, magnitude range of this size, that is a type of earthquake that definitely we are concerned about, because likely to create casualties and damage, as we have already seen.
And Rafael, without going too sciencey on us, just tell us the difference that occurs when a quake is so shallow like this, and the different kind of effects it then has on the surface.
Yeah, basically the effect of the depth is pretty much, it's kind of like the farther away you are from what the source of the earthquake, okay, the farther the seismic waves have to travel, and definitely they get weaker the farther you are away. So, and that happens in terms of the distance in the surface. So the towns that are farther away from the epicenter don't feel it as strongly, and also and the same happens when the quake is deeper. So if we see a quake that is like 60, 70 kilometers deep, it's definitely not going to have the same effect as we see it this when it's 10 kilometers, which means that it's really, really close to the surface, and obviously close to the surface to where the people and the structures are.
And Rafael, of course, as I mentioned with Laura Silvia just before I spoke to you, Italy's no stranger to earthquakes. There's been a number in recent years. Of course, the most serious was in 2009, L'Aquila, which did cause lots of devastation. Just explain the geophysical makeup of Italy. Obviously, there are earthquakes, there are volcanoes. Does Italy sit right on a fault line?
Definitely. There is a very large fault plane that pretty much traverses the boot of Italy from north to south, okay? And this particular area has been affected not only in the recent past, but also in farther away. There was actually a very damaging earthquake. I think it was in 1915. Obviously, there is the 2009 L'Aquila quake, which I personally worked on. Okay, and these are quakes that definitely, okay, this area is prone to have damaging earthquakes of this magnitude range and this characteristics.
And Rafael, just finally then, you said you worked during the L'Aquila quake of 2009. What lessons do you think Italy will have learned from that massive disaster?
Basically, one of the things that happens, and a lot has to do with the infrastructure of the country. One of the things that happens, for example, is the fact that you see in this particular area, you see a combination of ancient buildings that are not retrofitted, but also you see modern structures that are actually built with seismic code in their character. So that definitely makes a difference in terms of how structures are going to respond and everything else. Hopefully, over the next couple of days, depending on the effects of the damages, how many casualties we get to see associated with this event, and so on, we'll really get to gauge and assess if the lessons from L'Aquila carried over to this other event, because this event is actually very similar to the one that happened in 2009.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we won't have the same death toll. Rafael Abreu from the US Geological Survey, thanks so much for joining us.